Welcome to Faith Fiction and Folklore, or the Tria podcast, where we try not to F it up. And today we are going to go over a review of the movie I, Robot. And that has a lot to do with Gary. How are you?
Oh, I am just fantastic.
And
Since it's not like we haven't been doing it for 45 minutes already, but I'm great.
great.
Sweet.
Heck yeah.
Yep.
But basically, this is kind of what Gary does on the side.
This is one of the ways I make money.
This is one of the way he makes money. And so I was kind of wanting to kind of go over and let him talk about his own review, just so you guys know when you click down at the bottom of the videos when you watch them, that's what you're clicking on. You get to know him a little better.
There's a link to the Substack newsletter.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But the Substack newsletter, just full disclosure, they're basically copies. Excuse me. They're basically copies of the article on Mind Matters News. So if you want to get the articles kind of like as they're happening, you would go to Mind Matters News. I made a Substack because at the time when I started writing, I didn't have an author's page on Mind Matters News. So I wanted to archive the articles, so I'd copy and paste them on the Mind Matters onto Substack. Now the old podcast episodes and the articles are all going on Substack in one giant thing. So they're just a little bit behind everything else, I guess you would say. But it's kind of a hub to get everything. So there's that. So yeah, here's the website, I guess. My author's page for Mind Matters News. We're actually going over Terminator Salvation right now. This is the first review that came out this week. For today, we started Terminator Salvation. But on Substack, we were talking about I, Robot.
Yeah.
And I like that movie. It's pretty
I
good.
like it too.
Review's over, folks. No. So, no, I liked iRobot because it actually meshed sci-fi noir pretty good, I felt, which noir is like detective novels, mysteries, that kind of thing. The Expanse does that a little bit too, but I really thought iRobot did a good job with it. It does have some stuff that, like, philosophically I don't agree with. You know, the idea that, well, before we get into that, it's basically the idea of, like, dreams. Do robots dream? And, you know, the ghost in the machine type stuff.
Yeah.
And then you have the 3 laws, which I guess we could really talk about that, because the 3 laws are supposed to be how robots can keep from, like, killing people or taking over the world. Like, how do you limit a robot? Because, of course, everybody's fear is that robots are going to become smarter than everybody else, which is just nonsense. But people think that. And
Well, that's kind of what Will Smith's character what it was doing, right?
well, yeah, he didn't think that the 3 laws were any good, and he thought the robots they just couldn't compete with humanity, which is, a sentiment I agree with. And what's interesting about iRobot, though, is that it doesn't actually condemn Will Smith for this sentiment. It's one of those really smart movies that does play it down the road. It leaves it open-ended whether or not the robot in question, Sonny, is actually, like, sentient or not. So it leaves open the debate.
Well,
But
he
it-
was kind of reincarnation of that doctor, wasn't he?
No, he was not a reincarnation of the Doctor, but the Doctor gave him dreams that were meant to serve as breadcrumbs for Will Smith to be able to solve the mystery. Because the whole thing was evil corporate overlord wants to take over the world using robots. So and the Doctor was trapped in the building, wanted to get the message out, couldn't, so he programmed a robot to break the 3 laws. So that would get Will Smith, who was known for hating robots, on the case. And then that way the Doctor could kind of lead him to an isolated place where he could say, hey, there's a revolution going on. So, spoilers. That was a little... I probably should have said spoilers first, but, spoilers, haha. So, there's that. But if we're going to...
Jen just asked, I take it they are waterproof. I've never seen the movie.
Oh, yes, the robots are waterproof. They wouldn't get very far if they weren't, I don't
Yeah.
imagine. So let's see if I can find my own blasted article where it talks about the 3 laws. Let's
Yeah, it's a
see.
good movie. I recommend it.
Yeah, here we go.
It's especially if you like Will Smith.
Mm-hmm.
What's the lady's name that plays the other doctor?
Oh, I have no idea. I haven't seen her in years.
Scientist.
Yeah, I don't remember her name. She does good. She does a good job. Like, all the actors are solid in the cast. I will compliment iRobot while I'm lighting my cigar and killing time. I will compliment the movie on one other point. It actually successfully pulls off a red herring, which I've normally when a movie tries to do it, like okay, I guess I should define red herring. A red herring
Yeah.
is like a false lead. Like the story tries to trick you into thinking one thing, but the twist is actually something else. This movie actually pulls it off. I have seen this movie a lot, but it had been years since I'd seen it when I did the review, and I'd totally forgotten that the CEO wasn't the bad guy. The CEO was always the bad guy, but he wasn't the bad guy in this movie. It was Vicky, the AI, and I had to compliment the movie for that. I was like, you tricked me.
Yeah.
You actually tricked me. I thought it was the evil corporate bigwig. And no, it was the AI computer that you see like once. And I had to be like, well played, movie. Well played.
Yeah.
I have to compliment it for that. It actually tricked me. Normally I'm able to pick out the red herring in like 30 seconds, but this one got me. So, with that being said, let's dive in. See that horrible pun I did because I'm such a witty writer? Let's dive
Literally.
in to the dream sequence here, the 3 laws. So, robots have entered the world, and they are guided by the 3 laws. The first law is, a robot may not injure a human being or, through inaction, allow a human being to come to harm. The second law is, a robot must obey orders given it by a human being, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. And the third law says a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law. These laws appear pretty sound at first, but there are problems, and we'll soon discuss them. All right, I'm going to find where I start talking about the 3 laws, because past me is probably way smarter than current me. So,
Well, I don't know about that.
okay, so let's see here. Well, thank you, but seriously, I'm like, I haven't eaten anything, so I'm like all loopy. But anyway.
Oh,
so
I'd have
here's-
made you a corn dog.
What?
I would have made an extra corn dog for you. if
You're
I
in
had that.
Oklahoma. There's no way. It'd be
I
cold
don't
by the
tell
time I got
people
here.
where I'm at.
Okay, sorry. California, Hawaii. He's somewhere else. I was lying when I said he's from Oklahoma. He's not from Oklahoma, guys. So, anyway. So, that being said, it's time to dive... Gosh, I hate myself. Time to dive into these 3 laws. Anyway, as they are they as foolproof as the movie makes them out to be? The short answer is no. One example I read stated that if a human attacks another human, they're useless. They can't defend the victim because they'd be required to endanger the attacker. So the problem with the 3 laws is that they're circular, and they create glitches in the programming where the robot couldn't do anything, and either way you go, the robot's going to end up breaking the 3 laws because it's obligated to protect the human, but it can't kill the human. So the robot can't actually defend anybody. Like if you were to try to program an actual AI with these 3 laws, it would glitch out the system because these laws are kind of tautological and circular. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
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 So
That's crazy.
yeah, it sounds a lot of this stuff that these like I guess futurists say, like it sounds so brilliant, and it's like, oh, we're going to be able to control the machines, but really when you really analyze it, it all just kind of breaks down because you can't program values into binary, and there's always going to be that limitation in machines because of that. So anyway, they can't defend the victim. I already read that. So what is the robot supposed to do? It is hard to say. And of course, the whole point of the movie is that these robots will inevitably conclude that the only way to protect humanity is to enslave them. That is probably true. But I should note and qualify this to myself that the reason that would be the case is because to get around the glitch I just described, the programmer is always going to have to program his or her own bias into the machine. And so what's always going to end up happening if you have, especially if you have like a Machiavellian programmer or some cynical programmer, is the robots are always going to conclude that humanity should either be destroyed or enslaved, because people will give a lot of weight to like a nuclear bomb and humanity's ability to destroy itself, but they usually won't give a whole lot of weight to a philanthropist. So how do you, in binary, compare the number of philanthropists in society versus the number of nuclear bombs? Who saved more lives? Who did more good? A philanthropist is people who like help people, who like give,
Right.
like food to children and stuff, do-gooders, like people who help others out. How do you weigh a good person compared to a destructive element like a nuclear bomb? And how do you know that the nuclear person isn't going to stop the guy trying to launch the nuclear bomb? You understand what I'm saying? Like, all of those kinds of questions are going to ultimately be subject to the programmer. And so if you have cynical programmers, the robots aren't actually, I guess the point is the robots are not actually trying to take over the world. It's the sentiment of the programmer, which is the big trick of AI. They try to sell AI as this unbiased source of authority. Well, it's not. It's a switchboard. And the information that's being isolated and presented to you is all based on the sentiments of the programmer. So it's still people giving you information. They're just adding an extra gatekeeper to tell you that gatekeeper is unbiased. So when you pull something up on like AI, when you Google something now, it may not actually be accurate information. Because how is that robot actually deciding what is reliable and what information you actually need? Give you a perfect example. And this is why they also call these hallucinations too. But I'll give you... I'm sorry, go on.
No, I was just trying to follow along with you.
Sorry. Tell me to slow down or shut up if I'm just rambling or not making sense.
Never shut up.
All right. Well, it makes sense in my own head. Somebody tell me to stop if it doesn't, or to slow down. Like, I am making sense to me, but who knows, All right. So let's see. So the robots are always going to try to take over the world.
I think you're on the next.
Did I scroll down? I probably did.
No. I think you're on the next paragraph. Actually.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Slave them. In the best case scenario. Okay, and this is, I think, also I'm talking about how the robots are supposed to choose between one life or another. I think that's what I'm referring to here.
Which is what that one did at the beginning.
Which is exactly what Will Smith was mad about. This exact problem in the movie. So, in the best case scenario, they keep a kid, like, so say you've got a kid. Oh, wait, no, I understand. I'm saying something different. Never mind. Let me just read it. In the best case scenario, they keep a kid from riding his or her bike because it's too dangerous. So they start, like, mother henning kids because of probabilities.
Right.
In the worst case scenario, the robots try to take over the world. So I can't complain too much about the plot hole because even by the movie's logic, the three laws don't really work. You can read more about the problem with the three laws at Mind Matters, and I have a link here. I believe I did read this article, at least I might have. But Mind Matters News talks about these problems all the time, like issues of AI and the conflicts that it's going to have. And there's a whole article done on Mind Matters News about how the three laws fail. And you can't really use them in robotics. So go check out Mind Matters News. It has a lot of great stuff about why the singularity and the supremacy of robots is very hyped. But anyway.
Nice.
Despite the robots' programming, they stand still as Spooner shoots them one by one. Okay, so I'm going back into the story. All right, so that's the discussion on the three laws. I guess the next thing, let's see if I can find it on my own Dad Blame newsletter website because I'm a professional.
We're all professionals here, don't worry.
So, how are we doing on the chat, Trevor? Has anybody got anything to say?
Jin just said my brain crash, and I responded, "Me too." LOL.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to make it simple. I'm
No, it's fine.
sorry.
I wanted to show them kind of what you do. So
Okay,
this
yeah,
is
yeah. Read the article because I have more time to explain things in the article, so I can slow down and articulate stuff better. So I apologize if I'm just rambling right now.
he's a rambling
All
man.
right, so I want to try to find where it talks about the dreams in the machines. Okay, because this was actually very interesting.
You spelled Sunny wrong.
Shush. All that editing was for nothing. So
Editing, what's that?
it's the thing you're supposed to do when you put out a professional article.
We don't edit things here.
I'm supposed to. That's part of my job. Apparently I
Well,
failed. Uh, it might be in the next one. It's probably not in this one. Okay. Yo, no, it says ghosts in the machines. I'm not crazy.
you ghosted yourself.
I did. All right. Hang on. Here we go. So in front of the house is a giant demolition robot set to destroy the building in the morning, which of course it doesn't. It tears down the house with the guy inside cuz fight scene. And I'm not sure why houses need to be destroyed in the future. Surely there was some distant relative or two who would have loved to move in because it's like this nice mansion. So in
Yeah.
this, it's like a ridiculous plot hole I was pointing out. Basically, in the scene, Dr. Calvin dies, and he has this gigantic mansion. And so, since he's dead, they put this gigantic robot in front of the house to like destroy it for no reason. And I'm thinking, he didn't have a relative or two that might have liked that. I mean, shouldn't you like read the will first, or I don't know, see if somebody wants it? Why are you destroying the giant house?
Well, I think they destroyed it because they were afraid that he might have some sort of like backup
Well,
server.
they hacked the machine and destroyed it early because they were afraid of that and they were afraid what Spooner was going to find. My question
Yeah.
was, why is there a giant demolition robot that destroys dead people's houses right after they die in the first place? It
Well,
seems like a
because
silly mechanism.
well, the company that he works for probably destroyed the original will, and this is just me guessing.
Mm-hmm.
And was in my thought is he they probably had him in the fake will give them his house because he worked for them or whatever,
Uh-huh.
and they actually owned it, or they bought it out before he passed.
So somebody bought it out and just ordered to destroy it beforehand.
So they could rebuild
Okay, you know what,
whatever they
you
want.
might be right, Trevor, but this is called in like these review circles writing for the author. They don't tell you. So
Right.
that's why you kind of count it as a plot hole because it's an instance where people should have explained stuff but didn't. It's not a big deal. It doesn't like collapse the movie or anything. It's just a little silly that you have a random Destructo droid that gets parked in front of a house when people could have just as easily bought it. But, you know, it's a cool scene where Will Smith is running through a destroyed house. It's a
Oh,
great
yeah.
scene.
Great scene.
And he saves the cat. Not that anybody cared, but he saved the cat. So anyway.
Well, the cat's very important in all of Will Smith's movies, like Men in Black. You know, the cat, Orion's belt, and everything.
It's not another esoteric Hollywood thing, is there? The hero must always save a cat, and the dog must always die. There are reasons for these things. Part of the occult. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I mean, if you go back to ancient Egypt, they worshipped cats. So
You know what? You're right. That
Chicken
probably
butt.
wouldn't surprise me. It's like all about worshiping cats or something. I don't know.
I believe cats are going to take over the world right next to the robots.
Oh, that would be a crappy world. Good night. Anyway, let's talk about Ghosts in the Machine. Let's see if I can find it again because I had it.
Are we talking about spiritual ghosts or
No, what?
hypothetical?
Let me just read it, and if I fail to mention it in this paragraph, I'll explain it. So, in front of the house is a giant demolition robot set to destroy the building in the morning. I'm not sure why the houses need to be destroyed in the future. Surely there are a distant relative. I already read that. So Spooner goes inside and begins looking around. He comes across a recording of Dr. Lanning as he's talking about the ghosts in the machine. He describes these ghosts as random segments of code and asks questions like why robots choose to stand together rather than alone when they're stored in a dark place. So, this idea is that it's basically evolution, but on the code level. So the random variations in the code produce behaviors that are evolutionary. That's essentially what he's getting at.
So he put basically an Easter egg in the robots.
No, these are accidents. Now, these accidents, if I understand the movie correctly, gave him the idea to plant a dream in Sonny that would give Will Smith a clue to, Vicky trying to take over the world. But the concept, one of the things that I was writing about in the review is the concept of the ghost in the machine, whether or not random code can create order, like whether or not a random segment of code is going to create a behavior. Now, any programmer that I'm aware of, would probably say, if I were to guess, that a splicing of the code or a distortion in the code, splicing is not the right word, but a distortion in the code is going to cause a glitch in the thing to crash. It's not going to reproduce behaviors. And how do you get a chaotic element to create... it's just the same problem as with evolution. It's like you're dealing with mutations, essentially, developing order and creating something new. But in this instance, like what you see with computer codes in real life, is anytime you see that distortion, it instantly shuts down whatever that function is. You don't get something that's usable out of a single solitary glitch.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. That's basically the problem with the ghosts in the machine. He's attributing the ghosts in the machine to these random chaotic mistakes, like typos in a word.
Yeah.
And that really doesn't make sense. So that was the other thing I was complaining about. So,
chaos is fair.
Well, chaos doesn't produce anything. Chaos is just leaves you dead.
It's still fair.
I guess if you consider death fair, that's a little cynical, but okay.
Well, it's a quote.
Is that's Toothpaste, right?
No, it's from the Joker.
Oh, you're
Heath
right,
Ledger's
the
The Joker.
Well, that's even better, yeah, because he's the role model for the world, guys. It's like, you get what you deserve, or is that a different one? So anyway,
I think that's one of the.
That's a different one. No, you get. Okay, that was a joke. I knew what I was saying. It was Joaquin Phoenix says you get what you deserve, and Heath Ledger is the one that says chaos is fair, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just funny. You get what you deserve.
We should do a review on that one.
I don't know if I
Phoenix's The Joker.
could. I don't know if I could because the other one, the newest one, stank so bad. It's like Todd Phillips was ashamed that he actually made the plebs happy, so he had to ruin his own franchise to, get back in good with his buddies at the cocktail parties.
Well, you didn't like it? You didn't like the explanation of how the Joker got started?
No, I'm not talking about the first one. There's a sequel that came out.
Ooh.
And it's a musical, which is your first hint that it's horrid.
It's a musical?
It's a musical. Can you imagine a Joker musical?
Please, no.
It's terrible. It's so bad.
That's ridiculous.
He's like,
that's kind of like what the Disney did with Beauty and the Beast.
You mean remake it shamelessly and change as little as possible to just regurgitate fans?
Yeah, that was. It's a good movie, great movie. Don't watch it. Sorry.
It's a great movie. In fact, it's the same movie. Don't bother.
Just watch the cartoon again. You'll be satisfied.
So okay, so that's it's stuff like that that's in the iRobot stuff, and
yeah.
All these reviews basically have the same kind of idea. We go over plot holes and story structure and emphasis, since it's all sci-fi reviews, there's an emphasis on tech and what tech can and can't actually do. So, what are your thoughts on iRobot? I've talked for half an hour, so what do you think?
I like iRobot. I love Will Smith as an actor, so there's the first thing that I like about it. Um, and then I like the chick. I don't remember her name. Um, and then just the whole plot. And then you know how you said the plot thickens, or what it was called. Which bird was it?
The
The
what?
raven, the red herring.
The red herring, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The
And how
twist at
the
the end.
the twist at the end. I love good stories like that.
And Shia LaBeouf gets beat up by robots. It's great. No, I
That's
have no
called
problem with Shia LaBeouf. But
isn't,
anyway.
isn't that one called the Eagle or Eagle Eye? Eagle Eye. That's it.
The Eagle Eye is another Shia LaBeouf movie. I remember
Yeah.
liking it, but I don't remember much else about it. I
It's
just
basically
remember that I
this.
liked it.
It's kind of on the same level as iRobot.
Evil
Okay.
AI.
Yeah.
Well, that'll have to be a review then. Of course, I've got like a backlog, so
Heck yeah.
stuff. Yeah, I've got. I'm gonna be. I'm working through. Let's see. I'm working through. I've written everything for Terminator Salvation, so those reviews are coming out now. I like Terminator Salvation. It is really, really good. And then I have to review the two bad ones after that, Genesis and Dark Fate. And I got to do a review series on those. And then after that, we talked about doing comparative reviews, like an instance where a sci-fi episode does something right and another sci-fi episode does something wrong, but you're talking about the same concept. So that's an idea we were playing with, but that's a
I
little
like
ways
that.
out. Yeah, I think it would be good too. It'd be good to try to show how certain tropes and things are done correctly and what they look like when they're done incorrectly, so people kind of know the difference between good writing and bad writing and that kind of thing. So we're playing with that. That's much more labor intensive for me, so I'm not sure how I'm going to pull that off, but I will
You can do it.
work at it. Yeah. So
I believe in you.
thank you, sir. All right. Well, I guess we're done with that. It's been about 30 minutes.
All right, so we're gonna end that one.
All right.
Or thank you for watching.
You got to say it with more unks. Look in the camera and go, guys.
Oh, this camera right here.
Yes.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. And we will see you on the next episode.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Faith, Fiction, and Folklore. If you did, we would love it if you would subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Rumble. We can also be found on X, Instagram, and Facebook. And we are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Thank you again very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.